Let's have a, palitan natin. Let's have the thumbs up reaction for that. Let's have the thumbs up reaction for those who are non-members. Meron. Okay, all right. Merami din, ha? Okay. What about those who are not members or are members but who wish to either renew or apply before this session ends? Apply for membership before this session ends. Let's have a, what do you call this button? The joy reaction button. Meron? Yon. Si Sir Bert, si Robert, magre-renew siya. Okay, all right. There's Sir Francis, all right. And now, let's have a heart react button for the officers of leave. Can we have the heart? All right. So these are the dedicated people who, who envisioned giving service to all of us, lit educators in the country. And so we thank you for being with us today, and hopefully talagang mag-translate, yung mga non-members mag-translate into members at the end of the session. Okay, all right. See, Robert has already previewed, the topic for today, and just for the benefit of those who probably were not able to attend last year's ICLE, we want to be able to really share, right? LEAP is committed to sharing with everybody a framework that we conceptualize in order to provide assistance, right? Perhaps in in little ways as we can into the teaching of literature. And so last ICLE, we talked about the notion of liberty. Right. The framework that LEAP actually introduced in the ICLE, and which we will be talking about mainly today, actually revolves around the idea of liberty and how this is crucial, how this is important, right? In our practice as literature teachers, maybe even in our personal lives. And so for today, we're trying to, we will try to understand like how else we can preserve and protect, the liberty that we care so much about, right? That we value so much about, because we take note that in the past 2 years our liberty was almost like threatened by the pandemic, right? By all the censorship that's happening in social media. And so we turn to reading, right? As Dr. Hermine Abad would say, reading is that liberating art, and this is what we need perhaps to really be free, right? And so for today, we're going to talk about free, all right? As applied in the context of the text Lirio, okay, which will be discussed by our speakers, and free, which stands for, all right, feeding the text, reading the text, enhancing the text, and enjoying the text. That is the paradigm introduced by Sir Isagani Cruz, and this is the paradigm with which we operate in LEAP. Literature teaching frees the mind, revolutionizes the classroom, encourages scholarship, and ensures love for learning. And today, hopefully, the discussions that will be given to you by our 3 esteemed speakers will enlighten you further about the current framework. And so thank you, everybody, and looking forward to a meaningful, fruitful session with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ma'am Early. I think everyone is already excited to see the free framework and how it operates in the classroom, right? So now, the moderator of our discussion today will be Dr. Chini M. Dino Aparicio, our LEAP's board member. And to introduce to us our speaker for this afternoon session, may I call on Mr. Christopher Y. Wright, LEAP's board member.
Magandang hapon po sa lahat. It's an honor for me to introduce to you our speakers for this afternoon. Our speaker for session 1, Deciphering Context Toward Concept Attainment in Literature Teaching, is Mr. J.M. Maravilla, who is a senior high school teacher at Puerto Princesa City National Science High School. He has been teaching literature for 21 years. Sir J, as his students would call him, specializes in Latin American and feminist writings. He took his bachelor's degree at the University of St. La Salle, Bacolod, and completed his academic requirements in Master of Arts in Education, major in literature at Philippine Normal University. He is also a module writer for the 21st Century Literature of the Philippines and the World for the Bureau of Learning Resources of DepEd Central Office and the Schools Division Office of Puerto Princesa City. Our speaker for session 2, free research component, is no other than Dr. Jennie V. Jocson. Dr. Jocson is currently the Vice President for Academics of the Philippine Normal University, the country's National Center for Teacher Education. Previously, she held the position of Deputy Director at the Philippine National Research Center for Teacher Quality, a DFAT Australian aid-funded research center based at PNU. She led national high-impact research aimed at improving teacher quality in the country. She currently holds the Venancio Menjola Professorial Chair in Literature at PNU and the PUP Professorial Chair in Literature for all her work on literature curriculum. Dr. Jocson has a postdoctorate in research from the University of New England, Australia, a PhD in literature, and an MA in English. She is the founding president of Literature Educators Association of the Philippines, or LEAP. Previously, she held positions as Vice President of Philippine Educational Measurement and Evaluation, or PIMEA, and served as a board member of PATEF Update. She is a gender advocate and has presented studies on gender mainstreaming in national and international fora. Her research interests include assessment, teacher cognition and teacher quality, and gender. Our last speaker for today for our session, Bridging the Gap Between Expectation and Reality, Sustainable Assessments in Literature Classes, is Ms. Kornellie L. Raquitico. Kornellie has been teaching various English courses for learners of different ages, cultures, and interests for 17 years. She finished her bachelor in secondary education, major in English, and Master of Arts in Education with specialization in literature at the Philippine Normal University. She taught grade school and high school English subjects in Assumption Antipolo and college English and literature courses at Ateneo de Manila University and Miriam College. She co-revised the Phoenix Learning Package Skill Builders for Efficient Reading 7 and 8 third edition and co-wrote the Converged 21st Century Literatures from the Philippines and the World by Phoenix Publishing House. Currently, Ms. Kornellie Raquitico is the president of LEAP. Ladies and gentlemen, let's all welcome our first speaker, Sir J. M. Maravilla.
Good afternoon, everyone. Is my audio clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Allow me to share. Okay, once again, ayan. Sige, I'll start. It is an honor for me to start the kick-off packet session of our association, Literature Educators Association of the Philippines. And this time we are going to talk about what we had left during the ICLE. And I will start with deciphering context towards concept attainment in literature teaching. So for our objectives, no, I would call objectives as squad goals. Napakarami kong squad, 171. Okay, because of its millennial appeal, the term, and because we are facing senior high school students, grade 11, grade 12, which really has that millennial touch, no? So what we are going to do for today's my slot, okay, recalling the free framework in the CWTL, understanding of context, application of the free framework in the CWTL using a regional literary techniques. Okay, so like what has been mentioned a while ago by our dear Early, okay, last ICLE we have present pre, no, would mean freeze the mind or radicalize learning. Okay. And this was translated into what do we need to do for the contextualized work text that we are promoting. So F, we facilitate and introduce how the free work text is designed given the literary piece. Okay, we raise cross-cultural consciousness and understanding through literature with the help of creative technology. So later on, we are going to showcase some creative technology mediated activities and empower the teacher through research and scholarship. And letter E, enrich teaching strategies with sustainable forms of assessment. So I am going to tackle the F and the further on will tackle the E. So let us start with, suppose you all have copies already. Diba po? You were given already, yes, you were given already the copy of the work text. So during the ICLE, we had the translation of a literary piece into ICT or
Sir Jay?
okay.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, sige. Then this time we are going to discuss how different contexts and the text meaning and enrich the reader's understanding. So we are going to talk about context, and if you're going to look at the MELCs, that would be in the first quarter, week 5 to 6. Okay? So we are now going to discuss Lirio. Using Lirio, we are going to discuss the target competency. So what are contexts, by the way? So context would be background, environment, the framework or surroundings of events or concurrences, idea. Ayan, am I clear? Sige.
Hi, Sir Jay. I think there's a problem with your signal. Maybe Ma'am Kelly will take over the presentation.
Sige po. Yes po.
Thank you, sir.
Oh.
Hi, Ma'am Kelly.
Can you please share the PowerPoint again, sir? Thank you.
Please, for a while, ma'am.
Okay, it is here viewable already. Okay na po.
Okay na po. Ma'am Kelly, can you see the PowerPoint presentation?
Yes, sir. Can I continue now?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So as mentioned by Sir Jay a while ago, there are 4 contexts that we usually keep in mind when we interpret a literary text. We have the literary context, the biographical, the linguistic, and the sociocultural. But for the purpose of this lesson that we created, we're just going to focus on the sociocultural context. Of course, due to the interest of time, but of course, in your classes, you can take up any of these 4 contexts, or you can just focus on one, depending on what you can handle in your class. Okay, let's have the next slide, please. All right, so for our teaching objectives, we would like to we expect the teachers to have a guided inquiry or lead the class in a guided inquiry of the nation's unique culture and identity of its people. And of course, the second one is to later on to provide students with activities that will help them understand the role of context in reading a literary text first, and then later on produce a text that will again take note of the importance of context after they're exposed to the genre, which is magic realist fiction later on. And we hope that at the end of the lesson, the students would be able to understand how literature reflects the unique culture and identity of its people, again, pertaining to our focus, which is context. And more practically is that they learn that literature should be valued, shared, and preserved through literary production. Of course, we have the essential questions here, like how does literature reflect the unique culture and identity of its people? And why should a nation's literature be studied, shared, and preserved? So these two questions hopefully will be answered by our students at the end of the lesson. Next slide, please. All right, so again, the focus of this lesson is the short story Lirio by Peter Solis Nery. Next slide, please. Next slide.
Hello, Ma'am Kelly. Yes. Am I
And now, sir.
kaya pa? Okay. Sige, try natin. Definitely, I'm having a problem with the internet signal. Okay po. Thank you, Press Kornellie. Yes. At this time, so the slide that you have here, the original Lirio is written in Hiligaynon. Okay, so you have there the text, and then it was translated into English. And thus, we have the idea really of this regionalistic literature. So, good luck to those who are here in from Western Visayas region 6. You can use this one definitely, no? Sige. So, are you ready? Are you ready? Okay, let the games begin. So the first day, according to the CWTL that we have, you can have the concept building. So the concept building would tackle different topics like this one: Philippine mythology and superstitious belief, okay, magic realism and Hiligaynon literature, and Peter Solis Nery. So let me go through this one by one. Philippine mythology and superstitious belief, no, you have the different duende, encanto, what else? Our belief in soul being transported into a different place, different formation, diba? So you can start your concept building with this. And then another one would be magic realism. Okay, for the magic realism, I don't know if you have seen the Netflix series Narcos, diba? Because Narcos, they are defined magic realism as something that is defined as what happens when a highly detailed realistic setting, okay, is invaded by something too strange to believe. Okay, so yon, for us to be able to tell if magic realism is magic realism, we can probably have these three elements. Now, number one, it has to be rooted in reality. So definitely it would really take the setting, it would really take place in reality. Realism is highly being emphasized here. And then as the story goes, no, nonchalantly introduce supernatural elements. Okay, you have folk stories, you have myths, okay, and the characters would react through emotions rather than questioning how or how did it happen, no? the introduction of the magic here, is not being questioned by the characters, neither the readers. Okay, and the third one would be there's a social commentary, progressive ideas, political commentaries on racism, sexism, colonialism. Okay, so and definitely all of this is present in our literary piece Lirio. And finally, you can do the concept building using Hiligaynon literature and Peter Solis Nery, the author. Okay, the attitude of the Hiligaynon. I am an Ilonggo, no? I came from Bacolod City, and so the way we speak, di ba, malambing, no? The way we deliver the lines, na parang ano na nga galit ka na nga pero malambing pa rin, no? So how is that being reflected in the story Lirio, and how Peter Solis Nery depicted the region through the story. So ayan, you can use those concept building. Okay. So for day 2, you can have the discussion proper. So I would like to show you this recording of my class. Okay. Is present, so you can close your cams already. Thank you. Okay, now allow me to present. Okay, so at this point, I want you to go to your class points. You have the class code there, enter. So I have there, the code is 17470. Okay, so at this point, I have already 13 students with me. Okay, very good. Yeah. Now, I wait for a while, sorry. Is present, so you can close your cams. Okay, there. Ayan. Okay, so at this point, I want you to go to your class points. You have the class code there, enter. So I have there, the code is 17470. Okay, so at this point, I have already 13 students with me. Okay, very good. Now, our topic for today, the short story that we are going to discuss is Lirio by Peter Solis Nery. So you have there the pictures of Lirio on the other side, while on the other side you have the picture of Sir Peter Solis Nery. Okay, at this point, I have here a verse, and can I ask someone to please read the verse aloud with full emotions? Anyone? Okay, yes, Haley, please do.
If you love a flower, don't pick it up, because if you pick it up and dies in the season, you won't know. But if you love a flower, then love is not about illusion. Love is about appreciation.
Okay, so there you have it. This is a very Japanese verse. So this verse is related not to the story that we are going to discuss. Now, what do you think? So you can start typing it now. You have 2 minutes to do this. So there, I am using ClassPoint app, no, for this one. So now you have. Okay, we have one from Darius. Love someone for who they are. Okay. From Janaya, just let the person be, because there might be a chance that you will hurt that person interaction with your possession. Okay? We have 33 seconds more. 30, how about
So you can see already the responses of.
Wow, these are great messages. No? The flower symbolizes as a person that another person wants to love. The verse is about defining real love. Love is not aggressive. If you truly love the person, you will let them be. Okay, parang may hugot yata ito kay Hailey. Okay. Again, now let us try to hold on to your answers as we uncover the story Lirio.
So this one could probably fall into your motivation part, di ba? Ayan. Then you can proceed with independent reading or story analysis, any other strategies for you to be able to pull out the social, cultural, or socio-cultural aspect of the story, because that is the context that we are going to use, the intended context. No? Then afterwards, day 2, you can have different activities, especially this technology-mediated activity. So once again, from the PowerPoint, I am using class point. Okay. Let me play it.
Now, at this point, what comes to mind when you hear the word Lirio? Let us have a word cloud. Okay. You have flower, you have iris, lily. At this point, what comes to mind when you hear the word Lirio?
Familiar kaya? You're familiar definitely.
Let us have a word cloud.
So in class point, you can have now word cloud. You can have
You have flower, you have
choice
iris,
questions.
lily. Any more answers? Lirio. Sa Tagalog word lily. Okay, what else? White. Pure. Oh. Yes, definitely it's a plant. Okay. 4, 3, 2, innocent. And finally, the word innocent. Okay. So again, hold on to those words. And let us try to apply these words as we go on reading the story, Lirio.
Okay, so again, through the use of class point as your technology-mediated activity, you can this is being installed directly in your PowerPoint presentation. From your PowerPoint presentation, you download the app, and then once it is there or installed already, you can enjoy having this kind of activities. If you look more closely, no, and do your discoveries for the class point, you can also have here the name of the participants, and you're going to tap. Okay, so you don't need anymore to find a way on how to call people. Okay, how to call your students for recitation. Ayan. Okay, sila siguro itong Mexi, no? Ayan. So this is one application that you can use for to enhance your lesson using technology. You have the ever dependable Mentimeter. Okay, familiar po kayo sa Mentimeter. What else? You have the usual Google Classroom, Google Docs, Google Sheets, wherein you can have these collaboration activities. Ano po? You can have yung usong-uso ngayon yung virtual museum. no, wherein although it's tasking, no, it will really take time for the teacher to curate the virtual museum. Probably you can use ArtStep for this, no. But then once you open it to students already, no, you can showcase the different works of the students and enhance further their learning. Ayan. So these are some of the things that you can use as your tool in teaching Lirio or in teaching literature in general. So from here, these are the references that I had, and I would like to thank our president, Ms. Kelly, for taking over a while ago when I had this internet signal problem. And once again, para sa guro at panitikan, J. Maravilla po, maraming salamat.
Thank you very much, Sir Jay. I think, Ma'am Chini, you may now start the.
Yeah, thank you very much. Magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. To our participants, you can freely ask your question through our chat box. Pwede rin namang mag-unmute kung mag-request if you want to ask your question personally. Ano? So, Sir Jay, it's truly interesting na we have tried to incorporate technology as a way of facilitating this kind of technique or this kind of strategy. So habang nag-iisip yung mga participants natin ng question dito, siguro let's get to know more about the core, that had the core of the topic that Sir Jay had shared with us. Sir Jay, so as you mentioned earlier, the initial step of deciphering the text would be concept building. So parang napakalaking role na ginagampanan ng concept building towards the realization of this technique. If our teachers would skip the concept building part, will there be any disadvantages kung sakali?
Okay po, Doc Chini, thank you for that question. Primarily kasi yung CG, the pandemic curriculum guide of 21st century literature, nakalagay talaga doon yung the different contexts that should be discussed, okay? And using this context, we will be able to enhance further the interest and the understanding of the student. Kaya the concept building is really very, very important. If we are going to go back to our F, the original F, we have freeing the mind or freeing the text. So we feed the text by discussing the different concepts that would surround the literary text that we are discussing. So with this, feeding the students in order for them to fully understand and grasp the literary text. Used to be, ito, ano lang po, no, sa mga teachers, especially those who are in the depth ed, ano po, used to be, ang ginagawa natin, no, literary theories, di ba po, we would use or discuss literary theories first. And however, sa curriculum guide, going back to curriculum guide and the MELCs that we are having right now, wala po doong nakalagay na literary theories. Instead, context ang i-discuss. Okay po.
Yeah, thank you, Sir Jay. So napakahalaga na, very important na ma-establish natin ang content at context para ma-ensure natin that the students are ready as we unfold the text. So we have here two other questions, Sir Jay. Let's start with the one given by Eline, I hope I pronounced your name correctly. The question, sir, is which contemporary or pop culture text can we use with Lirio?
Okay. Lirio is actually a contemporary literature. Okay. If ever a supplementary literary piece, we can have ano ba? We can go back to 13. Okay. How mythology was presented in 13, if you can recall the ICLE, and how mythology is now being reflected in the present literary piece that we have, Lirio. Okay? So siguro pwede po yung gano'n na ano na intertextuality. After all, these literary pieces belong to postmodernism. And postmodernism, one of the postmodernism characteristics would be the intertextuality. That is very, very evident with Lirio that we are using.
Okay, thank you, Sir Jay. And thank you, Eline, for asking that question. Another one, sir, is what is the rationale why we have to start with concept building? This is interesting po because in the traditional way of teaching lit, concept building is done after reading the literary text.
Okay po. The pre-framework that we are having is an outtake of Isagani Cruz's pre-model in teaching literature, the paradigm in teaching literature, which is pre, first, read the text, R, read the text, E, enhance the text, and another E, enjoy the text. So if we are going to look at the framework, the reading is second to feeding the text. Ano po? Wherein you really have to feed first the concept building so that as the student reads the literary piece, understanding is already going on or comprehension is already going on in the minds of our students.
Okay, Sir Jay, we have two questions actually here na parang it's more of the strategic way of trying this out no in their contexts. Like we have one question which is on junior high school. Due to limited time no from Elaine, she said that in junior high school there's limited time. So ano kaya yung suggestions daw that we can have so that we can establish the concept and text together just in one day?
Okay, pwede naman siyang one day based from my experience. Actually, for around 10 years or so, or 16 years, I taught at a junior high school before I was able to really be stationed in senior high school. Pwede, it is really the time management, no? Pero hanggat maaari po, wag pong hindi po siya parang hit or miss dapat yung concept building or concept attainment. Really, concept attainment will really help in the understanding of the text for our students. So, kailangan talagang gawa ng paraan na the concept and the text, or probably you can pre-assign the text, no? Tell the students, read the text ahead of time, and then afterwards, in the classroom, we can discuss the concept. Parang ganun po.
Thank you, Sir Jay, and thank you to our participants. It seems that they are truly interested in trying these. So we'll take a look at some of your questions, call them, and let's see if Sir Jay can respond to your questions siguro via chat box na lang or via PM. Meanwhile, we'll turn over the floor again to our MC for the next. Thank you, Sir Jay.
Thank you, Doc Jennie.
Thank you po. I think we can now move on to our second presenter, Dr. Jennie V. Jocson.
Thank you. May I share my screen? We will go back to your questions in a while. We'll just finish the rest of the discussions. Ano po? Magandang hapon, everybody. It's so nice to have all of you with us this afternoon. My part of the discussion is the part of the deepening. This is making connections through research. If you look at the free framework that LEAP developed for all of you, no, for members and non-members of LEAP. But if you are a member, of course, you get more of the free framework that we've developed. If you look at the free framework, the deepening or the making connections through research is already on the extending, is already on the empowerment of literature. If you are looking at the plan or the lesson plan, as you call it, in the ground, in our case, in the case of LEAP, we call it the CWTL, which you have a copy of. The deepening context is part of day 5. Now, there's a question earlier in the chat about you having an hour of the literature. This is the problem with the Philippine educational system. We're engrossed on the quantity that we give to learning. Learning cannot be equated with the number of hours that we provide, because learning is deeper than just your ordinary engagement in the class. Let's see if I can help you navigate through that in this talk. No? So the objectives of my presentation is, one is embed research in teaching, right? This is something that is crucial for LEAP and something that we want to be able to establish amongst all of you literature teachers. The idea is that you don't get tired or you don't get afraid of research, because research is higher level of teaching and learning. But at the same time, it starts at the bottom. It cannot start up there, not just like HOTS. You cannot do HOTS without doing the low order, okay? You cannot teach the high order. You keep on banking on high order. If you don't teach the low order, ganun din po ang research. So yung mga nababasa niyong sobrang gaganda, sobrang titindi naman ng mga nagre-research na yan, hindi naman ibig sabihin doon kayo mag-uumpisa lagi. Mag-umpisa tayo sa mas mababa. O sa mas madali na paraan ng research. And I think that's what I tried to embed in this talk. Second objective is to link the professional standards expectation to the research component in the literature classroom. I'd like to begin with Alvin Toffler's context, which I got from the source. The question is, can you have a copy of my presentation? Yes, I'll give you my my email address in a while, and you can request for a copy. Or I don't know if LEAP's decision is to give a copy immediately. So may source na ako dito. The illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn and learn and relearn. And research is in the heart of the relearning, of the unlearning, and the context of further learning. Okay, research is in the heart of the new components of learning, because we've tried all aspects of different types of learning. We've tried different types. We've tried different strategies and techniques. We've not tried a research component and a research-led classroom. Okay, this slide, and I think the next two slides are repeat slides, from the International Conference on Literature Education in 2021. So in this slide, we say, we quoted Weller in 2016 when he said, integrating research activities into teaching has been informed by the growing demand from higher education and employers for students who are problem solvers with skills to undertake inquiries. And then you ask a question, but Jenny, your source is higher education, because that's where the data is. Employability is where the data is. That's where we know that we did well amongst our students. We cannot contextualize learning by mere tests and by mere graduation from basic education. The real test is if they can perform in the society. So there's no other data that tells us if our kids did well other than when they are out there in the world. And it doesn't matter if they take basic education full or tertiary education full or half-half or skills test or TESDA. Now, it doesn't matter. Still, the data will tell us, did they perform good in the society immediately after learning? Okay? That's where the data is. So, ang konteksto po na sinasabi ni Weller, if they become problem solvers, then we've taught them well. Now, the second point in contention is that this is literature research. How well would literature research be equipping our students as problem solvers. If that is your question, then you don't understand literature up to its core, because understanding literature is actually becoming broad, no? Is broadening your aspect of understanding of the world. The theoretical foundations of literature allows you to navigate further from the text outside, and the response, no, the reader response allows you to contextualize your own response to that of others. Okay, so literature, inherent in literature is becoming or being a problem solver. Siyempre bias kami sa LEAP, no? Siyempre bias kami when we say, when you are a literature person or a literature teacher, then all of these things are inherent in your context of knowing literature, of teaching literature, and today of researching literature. Okay, I shift momentarily to the context of the Philippine Professional Standards for Teachers. If you are from the Department of Education, you know heavily that this is now the component of teaching and learning, the component of promotion, and just about everything in the Department of Education and anything teacher, no? And may kapatid dito, the Philippine Professional Standards for School Heads, kasi sinong susuporta sa teacher kung hindi rin marunong ang punong guro? Kailangan suportahan kayo. Sinong susuporta sa punong guro kapag wala tayong malinis na standards aligned with their standards? Hence, the development of the Philippine Professional Standards for Supervisors. So pantay-pantay ang aspeto na yan, okay? Anong expectations mo sa teacher? Dapat may sumusuporta na school head. Anong expectation mo sa school head? May sumusuporta na supervisor. Now, Domain 1, so hindi po ito lecture on professional standards, but Domain 1, Content Knowledge and Pedagogy, accounts for Strand 1.2, which is Research-Based Knowledge and Principles of Teaching and Learning. Ine-expect na ng professional ng ating hindi na ito ay mas mahusay ka ikaw na lang, mas cute ka ikaw na lang, mas bibo ka ikaw na lang. Hindi. Ine-expect na ng ating profesyon na marunong ka ng aspeto ng research. Right? And if you are not from the Department of Education, I hope you have heard of the Philippine Professional Standards for Teachers, because this will soon be the all and end all of our profession. Ano? Ang tawag sa kanya ay Philippine Professional Standards for Teachers. Hindi siya DepEd Professional Standards for Teachers. So anybody who's in the basic education would need the professional standards as basis for everything. It will not happen overnight, but the professional standards will single out where we are in terms of education in the Philippines. Ano? It will not happen overnight. Now, in this particular aspect, if you see 1.2.1, 1.2.2 onwards, these are the career stages. So kung ikitaga DepEd, alam mo ito. 1.2.1 is the pre-service. Ang ine-expect namin sa pre-service ay kaya niya mag-demonstrate ng understanding of research-based knowledge and principles of teaching and learning. Sa amin, sa PNU, taga-PNU po ako, ang ine-expect namin is that our pre-service students can give us attainment, proof of attainment, that they can understand research-based knowledge. How is understanding going to be shown? If they're able to conduct research, small or simple research, or short researches. If they can be part of a group who would do research, they can be part of a data gathering of somebody else, no, of their teacher, for example, then they have demonstrated understanding. Okay. A teacher who is teacher 1, 2, 3, or what we call proficient teacher has an indicator, and the requirement is use, no longer demonstrate, but use. Because you can demonstrate from the lesson plan, from your worksheets, but if it is use, the expectation is that you know how to do research, and that can inform your classroom. Use research-based knowledge and principles of teaching and learning to enhance professional practice. And look at the use of the phrase the phrase professional practice. It's not just practice, it's the professionalism of practice. We're elevating the teacher's level. Para hindi na lang kayo pinagagawa ng report, hindi na lang kayo pinagbabakuna at pinagtetest ng bulate, no? But we are actually elevating your context of practice. It will not happen overnight, ha? 1.2.3 are the master teachers in the Department of Education. If you're from the private school, bata. Okay, if this is the private school, your master teachers will be your department heads. Collaborate with colleagues. So pag nagka-collaborate ka na, marunong ka na. Marunong ka na talaga sa research. Publish ka na. Kung hindi ka man publish, nagpe-present ka na sa LEAP international conferences, marunong ka na sa research. Ang distinguished teachers natin, ito yung mga Metrobank awardees na lead co-leads in the advancement of art and science of teaching based on comprehensive knowledge of research and pedagogy. I don't think from the basis of the standards we will all reach distinguished, no? So anong pag-uusapan natin ngayon? Dito lang tayo dun sa use of research, of knowledge, and use of research-based knowledge and principles of teaching and learning to enhance professional practice, right? Andito lang po tayo sa konsepto na ito. Let me move on. So we say, no, and this is a slide from ICLE, embedding research enabling activities is very possible in all literature classes. This slide is a repeat of the ICLE. Meron tayong mga reflections bago ka magkaroon ng integration ng research. Ano? Iisa-isahin ko po ito. One, how do I see research being embedded in my teaching or my literature subject? Kailangan alam mo muna ang research. Ano munang gusto mong alamin, okay? Jennie, ang tagal ko nang nag-aral. Ano? Yun nga po, kaya nga meron kaming mga dinideliver na ganitong free workshops for you guys so that we can help you get by, no? Kasi nagbago na po ang teaching, ang ating kasing profession, unfortunately, it cannot stay there. Just how you learned 20 years ago, it cannot be that because the world has changed. Nagigerahan na nga and it might be the possibility of World War III. Wag naman sana. But your kind of teaching stayed there 20, 30 years ago. Then we are doing an injustice to your students and to the to the country as a whole. So anong alam mo sa konteksto ng research, right? Next, how prepared are you? How capable are you on fostering research? Jennie, I'm not prepared, I'm not capable. Good. Because sabi ni siyempre favorite ko ito, nakalimutan ko. Sabi ni Confucius, okay? If you don't know a thing, then that's knowledge. If you know that you do not know, then that is knowledge. Then come to us, come to LEAP, and we will help you prepare yourself in the fostering of research. Am I open to taking new paths of learning or new lenses to see how research can benefit my teaching? Research is like mathematics, no? It's not for everybody. It's not for the faint-hearted, okay? So sometimes you have to just trigger the question in your head. Naaaral po yan. Nobody is a born researcher. Wala pong ganon, ha? Lahat po yan ay naaaral. How accepting am I of the pedagogical challenges that could redesign or retool my teaching? Kalimutan mo na yung 1, 2, and 3, pero yung number 4 is very important. Now that you know research and you've done research and you saw that the way you do things is not working amongst your students, then you have to change. That's the benefit of research. You have to change. You cannot say, hindi, master teacher ako, I know what I'm doing. I have a degree in literature, I know what I'm doing. But the research tells you it's not working, darling. So you have to change, okay? Next, does my academic community stand with me in this new vision of developing research-oriented students? Minsan, suntok sa langit ang pagre-research, ano? Kasi masyado tayong nasanay sa mahusay na yung teacher na yan, wag mo nang pakialamanan. But again, knowledge has changed. No? The world has changed and you cannot stay there forever. So kapag ka ang iyong community ay hindi helpful, hindi open ang mind sa pagbubuo ng research, medyo problematic din tayo. Ha? Unfortunately, ang LEAP magtatanong lang pero hindi namin masagot para sa iyo. Okay? Next other question, set of questions. How do I see this? Sorry, it's a repetition pala. It's a repetition. Okay, let me now move on. This is day 5 in your CWTL. Nasa inyo po ito. May 3 uri ng nexus ng research o tinatawag namin na research integration. Okay? Research-led teaching, research-based teaching, and the research-informed teaching. I'll be slow as I do this. Okay? You notice that hindi ko nakita yung mga headings, okay? The second heading is the role of the teacher, the second column. The third column is the role of the students, and then our suggested learning activity, no? I'll go to the next slide para mas kitang-kita natin ang differentiation. When we say it's research-led, okay? Ibig sabihin the discussion, the discussion is informed by researches conducted, no? Bago ka dumating sa klase mo, may na-research ka na. Kompleto ka na ng research. Kasi yung research mo, yun ang lesson mo. And then you ask yourself, Jennie, hindi na ako magtuturo ng hindi na ako magtuturo ng concept building na kagaya ng tinuro ni Sir Jay kanina. If you only have an hour and there is no other way for you to teach beyond 1 hour, then choose. Ang CWTL is meant to be long. Kasi mamimili ka alin doon ng kaya mong gawin at pwede mong gawin. Minsan kaya mo lahat. Alright? Pero alin lang ang pwede mong gawin given the time, given the elements, given everything else. Okay? So, kung ito ang pipiliin mong aspect, mas maganda sana kung mabuo mo lahat from concept building to the use of technology to research to the assessment, no, that we're assisting you with. But kung hindi at dito ka lang nakafocus sa research-led teaching, then nagawa mo na ang gusto mong i-research at ito na ang laman ng study mo. I have a sample in a while. Ikaw ang researcher, ikaw ang expert, ikaw ang laman, ikaw ang nagsasabi ng lahat ng iyong ni-research. Jennie, how different is this from how the kind of teaching that I'm so used to, na ako ang nagde-deliver? Parang walang pagkakaiba. Ang problema lang, pagka wala ka namang ni-research, kinopya mo lang lahat dun sa libro na ibinigay sa'yo, nagalit ka pang nagkamali yung workbook na ibinigay sa'yo, wala ka nang ginawa, ikaw na lang ang nagturo. Pangalan nito, hindi yung research kasi that somebody else did that for you, right? Research here is that you guide your teaching based on the questions that you have, okay? So teacher is a research expert, student is a critic. How does that look like? We've provided you a suggested activity. Sa CWTL, read and critic similar or related research about the literary text to be studied. Read and critic. Conjunction po ay and. So, hindi pwedeng nag-read ka lang. Kinritik mo rin yung binasa mo. Okay? Which highlights formal elements of the genre. So, kanina may tanong kay Sir Jay dito, na ano ang contemporary literature na pwede pang gamitin with Lirio. And Lirio is already contemporary. So, wag mo na siyang dagdagan. Wag mo na siyang dagdagan kasi ang 21st century learning, 21st century na siya eh. So hayaan mo na muna siya. Kung gusto mo pang mag-add, we talk about additional inputs lang. For example, additional inputs lang about the flower, additional inputs lang about Hiligaynon literature, but no longer another text. Okay? So that you can concentrate on the level of literature, right? Of the text, I mean. Various reading of the same text using different approaches, lenses, and others. So, kanina may nagtanong, hindi ko alam kung sasagutin kung naintindihan ko yung question niya, pero will the theories form part of your teaching? The answer is always yes. Ang iniiba mo lang, hindi mo na tinuturo what are the tenets of feminism. The 21st century learning does not require that anymore. The 21st century learning required that you put the learning of feminism, the tenets of feminism, to the aspect of the objectives of the class. And research is what you need there. So my suggested strategy is this. Una, gawin mo na yung research mo bago ka magklase. Ito ay hindi para sa lahat ng guro ng literature. Ibig sabihin, pag hindi ka marunong gawin to, mahihirapan ka dito. This will really separate the good eggs from, the eggs which need our help, okay? Because the research must be done by the teacher prior to the class. The objectives of the lesson must clearly show the products of research. Doon natin makikita yon, okay? And that the students may be asked to extend the learning based on research via your activity. Anong sample ko dito? So, kung sa objectives natin makikita, this is a sample objective, 5. Nag-inarte ako ng konti, may 5 na objectives dito. If you are writing better objectives, congratulations, but I haven't been writing objectives for quite a while. So this is the objectives. At the end of the class, the student should be able to, 1, connect to the Filipino culture using the learning from the literary text. Will there be research here? Can I see a thumbs up sign? Kapag yan ang objective na ginamit ko at nagturo si Sir Jay dito, is this a product of research or could portions of this be a product of research? Connect to the Filipino culture using the learning from the literary text. Is there research there? Thumbs up kung may research. Thumbs up kung may research. Hindi ko po alam, Jennie. Good. Again, if you don't know, good. Okay. You did a little bit of research, definitely, on what Hiligaynon culture is about. But the best way of talking about Hiligaynon culture is to invite a Hiligaynon and talk about his or her culture. That's the best. And so if you do that way, hindi na yun research. Okay? Number 2, express opinions and biases in technology-mediated activities. May research ba dyan? Thumbs up kung may research. Express opinions and biases in technology-mediated activities. May research dyan? Wala. Meron din in terms of what you want to do, pero hindi kitang-kita. Number 3, reflect on magic. Wala nang on magic realism as a literary technique. Meron bang Meron bang research dyan? Thumbs up kung may nakitang research dyan. Magic realism yung literary technique na ginamit ng author, kaya siya magandang text, no? Kasi very few ang may magic realism sa Pilipinas. May research ba doon? Reflect on magic realism. Baka the best that you can do there is define what magic realism is or show elements of magic realism in the text. 4, compare Filipino magic realism technique to any Colombian text. Is there research there? Is there research in number 4? Very good. Now you're doing research. Right? Jenny, wala nang ang oras magbasa ang estudyante ko sa klase ko. Gusto mo pa i-compare ko sa isang Colombian text. Hindi ko naman sinabing babasahin na ng estudyante mo. Di ikaw. And don't show a text, a written text. Show a film so that they can see the connection. Show a film so that you have 10 minutes, pinakita mo yung film, snippet of your film, and you're done. Hindi naman sinasabing lagi kang kakain ng apoy sa literature. Ibig sabihin lang the intertextuality is commonly seen. As noted by Sir J, dapat laging nandoon. 5, decide for oneself the literary value of Lirio to the 21st century. May research ba dyan? Sa last objective, thumbs up ko may research. Hindi na. Na yan? Generalization na. So sa number 4 ka nag-full research. Now, do not get me wrong. You have bits and pieces of research for 1, 2, and 3, and maybe about 5. Pero ang kitang-kitang objective na produkto ng research mo talaga is number 4. Okay, is number 4. Now, Jenny, can I have only that as an objective? Oo naman, hindi ko naman maintindihan ba't gusto nyo laging 10 objectives nyo? Hindi na nga marunong magbasa ang bata nyo. Gusto nyo pa 16 ang gusto nyo i-solve na problema sa classroom nyo. Isang objective lang is enough. Whoever tells you that there should be more than one is crazy. Number 2, research-based teaching. Okay? In the research-based teaching, the literary text requires the student to go beyond the text. Ito ang paborito ko sa lahat. Kasi ito, ibig sabihin, the students are allowed on their own to do the work of research. Okay? Pero syempre, we cannot give the students what we do not have. We cannot expect them to do things that we ourselves do not know. Kaya nagkakaproblema, no? Kaya putyo-putyo na lang isinasubmit ng bata, no? It necessitates an independent inquiry, probing what the text can offer more than what the surface reading gives. Ibig sabihin nito, kung ano yung ginawa mo, extend mo pa. Research-based teaching is the component here. The teacher is a research partner and the student is an author or the researcher. Okay? I did the same thing here. So ang suggested student research activity namin sa CWTL na nasa inyo is conduct small-scale collaborative research into specific topics such as gender representation and power dynamics, local color, folklore studies, socio-political studies, intertextuality, and others. Huwag kang magtatangka na okay class, let's do a research on power dynamics. Huwag kang magtatangkang gawin yon if you yourself cannot teach the logic of power dynamics, okay? So ano lang ang kaya mong gawin? Huwag ka rin naman masyadong moving towards there if the class is not ready, if you are not ready, okay? What's the suggested strategy? The research work is an extended class learning. Pag extended siya, ibig sabihin hindi sa loob ng klase nangyayari. Hindi yung inassign mo ngayon, bukas gusto mo na i-submit. Anong klaseng research yon? Okay? So it's an extended work. Next, research activity must be given ample time. There must be time, no? Chris must be laughing right now because there needs to be a time not to write research. So guilty ako doon, okay? So research activity must be given ample time. No matter how small, no matter how simple. You go simple research activity because your students are now ready for the big one. Okay? Kaya kailangan they need ample time. And then you must give ample formative feedback to the research work. Kailangan kasama kanila every step of the way para tama ang sinusulat nila. Gusto kong sabihin na hindi lagi na ang literature is delivered in English. Please. Literature is language-less. Okay? Hindi kailangan English sa loob ng isang literature classroom because literature is more of thinking, more of the processing. So Filipino is definitely a good language to use. Okay, so ito po ang sample research activity ko ha. Anak, huwag kang maingay anak. Ha? Kailangan kong tapusin ang lahat. Okay, sige. Ito po ang research activity. Form a group of 3. Okay, you will write, tama ba yung English ko? Form a group of 3. Three members in a group. You will write a paper on the topic gender representation in Lirio. Wow, big word, big concept, gender representation. This paper will answer the following questions as a means to explain some tenets of gender study. Okay, so gender representation is big, but you can tame it. You can sort of put it in a context that is easier and more tangible if you have such questions. Example, how was Lirio introduced in the story from the point of view of Lola Pansay? Jenny, sabi mo lang kanina, dapat hindi na yung inaral namin sa classroom. If you only have 1 hour, you cannot dissect everything that Lola Pansay said about Lirio. Tatay Manuel felt about Lirio. Yasmin felt about Lirio. Noli's love for Lirio. And Sergeant Itik's harshness, no, on Lirio. Okay? So this is the part of the research. Second part of the research, conduct a small focus group discussion, or what we call FGD, with 5 of your classmates. Find out if they share your opinion of how Lirio was introduced. It was introduced in the story by the other characters. For process on how to conduct FGD, please check this website. Okay, hindi mo in-expect na marunong ang mga estudyante mo ng FGD. Okay, so kailangan mo silang tulungan. If you need to explain how FGD is done inside the classroom, then you will do this. Okay? So sa 5 na yon, check nila sa mga kaklase nila kung ang opinion ng grupo na yan, yung 3, ay pareho sa opinion ng mga kaklase. Okay? And then the final question to be answered is, gather enough information on the flower lily. How may you compare Lirio to the flower lily? If this is part of your discussion already, di pwede mo nang tanggalin itong question na ito. You have 1 month to prepare the paper. For additional support on writing list of references and other details, see me every Wednesday, 4:30 p.m. Because the paper, again, needs time. The students needs time, no, to be able to develop all of these components. Wala na po akong oras, so nagmamadali na ako, ha? Etc. Okay? Now, Jenny, nasaan yung paano sila susulat ng introduction? Paano sila susulat ng research questions? Paano nila susulatin ng methodology? Tigilan mo yan. Unang beses nga magre-research ang bata, tigilan mo. Matututo rin yan in the future. The first level is that they know how to gather these pieces of information. Everything else will follow. Admittedly though, minsan ang mga tao marunong na mag-research but could not write the research. Admittedly, no? But you have to choose. You're not a research class naman eh. You're embedding research lang in the teaching of literature and the learning of literature. So itong second point natin na ito, research, ano nga ito? Research, ano ba yan?
Informed.
Research informed. Thank you. Research informed is an extension of learning already. Ha? Okay, sige. Next tayo. Final point. This is yeah, okay. Andito na po tayo sa okay. Ito na po ang dulo natin. The research focus could be, the focus of the research could be part of the assessment of learning. It doesn't have to be the assessment, the pure assessment that you will do for formative assessment or etc. It may not be that, but this is an extension of an assessment. Teacher is a researcher developer, so ikaw researcher and student as participants. Okay, anong sample na ibinigay sa CWTF? Do a small scale collaborative research on a specific learning and teaching activity, text experience, or learning assessment results. My suggested strategy is that the research work is the teacher's output. And this could be your action research already, because DepEd demands that you do action research. If you're from outside DepEd, I'm sure your private schools are already demanding that you do action research. Again, it's expected of all of us. Research activity must be given ample time, and the teacher must engage all of the students because this is your research now. My sample is an abstract, no? So hindi ko na po kayang ipaliwanag how you can write your questions, but this is a sample abstract. If you opt to do action research, then the class on Lirio is only one component, okay? Kung action research ang gusto mong gawin. So si Lirio na klase mo is just one of the many samples that you're getting from your class. So anong sample research abstract? This action research looked into the students' preferences in classroom activities. So alam mo na ang tiningnan mo na data ay classroom activities. Specifically, the study analyzed student qualitative comments. So, ibig sabihin nito, dahil abstract ito, ibig sabihin, pag tinignan mo yung methodology mo, nag-gather ka ng qualitative comments. Did you like the activity? Which activity do you like best? Etc. On the varied activities conducted in all literature classes. While the students appreciate abstract, so ang adults na siya. Okay, sabi ang internet unstable. While the students appreciate the variety of it, allow them to build on new concepts, which allow them, which allow them to either create outputs and trigger creative analysis of any construct. So, ang sinasabi mo, ang resulta ng pag-aaral mo is that gusto niya lahat ng variety of activities, pero ang pinaka gusto nila yung masusundan nila at mabibuildan pa nila ng iba pang konsepto. And then you say, as a part of a generalization, your data supports that the students are prepared to work in the highest intelligence as provided for by Anderson and Krathwohl in 2001 in the revised taxonomy. Okay? So ikaw ang gumawa ng research, ang mga bata ay iyong participant. And please, if you are doing something like this, you may submit to Dalin, LIP's journal. Okay? Embedding research is very possible in any literature classroom. Para sa guro at sa panitikan, that's my email address if there are queries, although we will respond to queries in a while. Thank you, everybody.
Ma'am, I think Ma'am Jennie.
Yes, sir.
Okay po.
Okay, I think we're encountering technical difficulties. True all over Philippines. But very clear ang ating natanggap na concept from Dr. Jen. And I'd like to pick up some of her 21st century teaching requires that you put research. Okay, so we have here some questions. Let's start with one from Miss Eline. Since a teacher researcher is expected to be exposed to a variety of literary texts and teaching methods, what are your practical tips in making time to study, read, think, or write?
Thank you. I'd like to say hi to Ma'am Carmel. Hi, Ma'am Carmel. Nice seeing you here. Okay. Ano ang tanong, Dr. Jennie? What's my suggestion and how you do all of these things for your students? For your students o para sa'yo?
Since a teacher researcher is expected to be exposed to a variety of literary texts and teaching methods, what are your practical tips in making time to study? Parang how do you become a multitasker as a teacher?
Yeah, thank you. Walang ibang paraan. There's no easy way to do it. There's no easy way to break somebody's heart. There's no easy way to do it to become a researcher other than to do it, no? You just have to expose yourself. So kung sabi mo yun ang paraan para ang researcher kailangan maraming alam, maraming nabasa na I have to agree with you, then you just have to do it. Okay? You just have to do it.
Yes, just have to do it. And maybe in connection to that, Doc Jen, what's your tip to teachers who do not feel confident in incorporating research or driving their students into research?
Sorry, I turned off. Sorry. How do we engage our students into becoming researchers? We cannot give what we do not have. We just have to be researchers ourselves, no? Be open, no? And mention that this is a product of research. This is what I found out. What do you think will happen if we do this or you do that, etc. So you have to open that floodgate, no, inside the classroom for it to happen. There's no other way, unfortunately. Ano po? But do not be afraid with the research. Ang akin lang, you start small. You start with us. You start with LEAP, no? Join us in our works, in our small and basic researches na ginagawa namin to assist you. That's the way to make it through. Research is never fun, okay? It's never fun. Unlike literature, it's always fun, okay? It's never fun. But what you need to inculcate more than being fun is you find solutions. It becomes a burden if it is a process by which you get something, like it's graded, it's heavily graded. So talagang, hindi talaga yan matututunan ng bata. So my suggestion is, do not make it like so. Make it as a part of their lives as students, rather than it's fully graded, unless it's a research class. But if it's a literature class, please make the literature classroom fun, no, including the research component. Thank you.
I think that already answers Yvonne's answer. How do you make research fun? So you try, as mentioned by Ma'am Jen, you try to explore other ways on how you can deliver it with fun, because research itself is already heavy, but you can still incorporate fun by teaching both literature and incorporating research in the classes. So thank you so much, Doc Jen. I think we can already turn over the floor again to our MC for our third session.
We may now proceed to the third and last speaker for this afternoon session, Ms. Kornellie Raquitico.
Thank you, Sir Robert. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes po.
Thank you so much. Allow me to share my screen first before I start. All right. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. And once again, thank you for being here despite the long weekend. I know it's more enjoyable not to somewhere else other than in this webinar, but you chose to be here. And I hope that you went to Czech Republic yesterday during the holiday, but I bet 75% I would bet that most of us were in the other Czech Republic. Kaway-kaway sa mga nag-Czech Republic yesterday, akala mo holiday, hindi pala. Can you raise your hand, or raise your hand, or I don't know, heart reacts would not be appropriate, or laugh, reacts. If you were in Czech Republic yesterday, pakitaas ang mga kaway po sa mga martir na guro na sumama sa EDSA Revolution, EDSA Commemoration bilang mga martir sa Pilipinas. Okay, now, well, I think some also agree that, well, Czech Republic is definitely not nice territory for us, as nice, as majestic as the Czech Republic that we know, right? Ang daming nagtaas ng kamay. Nako, kailangan nyo ng masahe after this, okay? Why is it such a harsh territory, no? Bakit hindi kaya tayo nakangiti, no? Pag nag-check, no? Can you please type in the chat box, what could be the reasons why we're not enjoying it so much? No, parang wala akong ma-recall na tuwan-tuwa ako nag-check, no? Parang for most of the time, it's like work for us. No, why do you think it's not that enjoyable? In fact, it could be a harsh territory na meron tayong lahat na ng ginawa natin. May tsaan na, may apple na, may lahat na ng snacks sa mundo na kainan natin. And yet we're still not satisfied. No? So why is Czech Republic such a harsh territory? Now, due to the interest of time, no, I will just look at your answers later, but I know that we have our individual reasons why most of the time we don't enjoy this territory. But I would bet, third bet ko is that most of us consider this Czech Republic as a harsh territory because we're frustrated, we're disappointed with the results of our students' output, correct? All right, so another raise hand or thumbs up dyan, no, sa mga high blood, sa mga output na half-baked at mediocre, no? But yeah, most the instinct, no, the usual instinct of a teacher, especially dito sa Pilipinas, is that we blame our students for not getting it right, right? Okay, tama pa ako? Thumbs up. All right. But you know what? Many years ago, I stopped checking after the 100th paper, and then I asked myself, baka naman there's something that I did not do right. Pasok side A, no? Where did I go wrong? Okay, honestly, I asked this question because I've been seeing the trend in the mistakes. Parang pare-parehas, no? Kung nag-iisip kang teacher, no, sabihin mo, parang may mali, no? This is not going right. you know that there must be something wrong. And the first step is for you to be aware that there's something wrong. Other than just shoving or inside the carpet, yung mga mali, no? Or yung mga common mistakes that you see in your students' outputs. I'm not saying though that it's always our wrong, all right? It's always our mistake, all right? But probably along the way, we must have missed something, all right? And what could be this, all right? I think, like in that case, when I was checking those papers, perhaps I was thinking back then that I wasn't able to articulate my expectations to my students as to what quality output I'm expecting from them to display or to turn in, right? So that's why the reality, the output that they submitted is not something that I was really happy to see or happy to read, all right? And I think that's where the gap lies, no? Because again, we were not, perhaps we were not very clear as to our standards. Because some of our standards, aminin po natin, they're hidden, they're unwritten. All right? Like for example, kaway-kaway sa mga may bias, sa mga may pangit na handwriting, right? Kaway-kaway sa mga may bias, sa mga hindi magaling mag-drawing, right? So, yung mga bias na yon are really unfair, right? But sometimes we cannot help but assess students' work because of those extraneous variables, right? Which again is not right. So we have to be very transparent with our expectations if we want the reality to be favorable, not only for us, but most especially for our students. So that is where sustainable assessment will come in. And again, as you can see in the picture, it should be the teacher and the student collaborating so that that gap will be filled correctly, right? And of course, positively, no? I will show you techniques later how to do this correctly so that the teacher and the student would hand in hand make sure, ensure that the output in the end, the reality in the end would be again favorable or meaningful, more importantly, for both the teacher and the student. So at this point, I will be introducing sustainable assessment, but particularly for literature classes. So what is sustainable assessment? Sustainable assessment focuses on the needs of the students right now. And we're talking about the 21st century needs. So if you're still thinking about 20th century needs, you're already being left behind. So we have to be very conscious of what our students need right now in order for us to cater to their needs for in the future. All right. So again, we're talking here about being career oriented already, or thinking about what's going to happen to them when they become adults, when they become college students, when they become professionals. Okay. And then, of course, in line with that, we have to focus not only on the output, but more than that is, of course, the process that they went through when they were doing the performance tasks. Okay. And as they, of course, perform the task, most likely these attitudes, qualities, or dispositions that they exhibited during the process of creating something, I think they are far more important than the output itself. Isn't it that we have to all the more reinforce, focus, or what we call this, or praise, commend the things that they've done that are like, for example, qualities or attitudes that you know they can carry with them when they become adults later on. Okay. And of course, another salient feature of sustainable assessment is the mutually constructed assessment between learners and teachers. So assessment, again, is not just coming from the teacher. It also is something that the students are aware of, that they agreed with, and that they're comfortable dealing with as they go through the creative process. Okay. Now, at this point, let me focus on the 7 principles of good feedback practices by Nicole and Macfarlane Dick in 2005. Now, there are so many sustainable assessment principles, but of course, due to the interest of time, we'll just focus on these 7 principles. Now, for the purpose of our lesson for Lirio, we created this performance task. Let me read it. The mayor of your town was very impressed with their group of young local writers' award-winning stories, and he wants you to collaborate with the local cultural heritage office to promote your town's culture to your generation through a magic realist story. The setting must be your town, And the narrative must include at least 3 unique details about your town's context. Remember, our focus is context in Lirio, right? Geographical, historical, societal, economic, and at least 2 mystical or supernatural cultural elements covering magic realism that your people believe in until now. Your story will be read in the next cultural program, like a festival, where many townspeople will attend. So just to make a side comment that, as you can see, the performance task is very realistic, very sustainable in the sense that the students are expected to perform roles and all the instructions that would help them come up with a very specific performance output or performance or output, they're all here, right? So there's no, as much as possible, there would be no questions asked anymore because all the 4 W's and H of the task, they're all here. Okay, so that's what makes it sustainable because again, it's tied up with reality. At the same time, you're already focusing on certain situations, skills, contexts that are again found in reality. Okay, we will use this in the for our discussion for the entire talk. Okay, now let's have principle number 1. Clarify first what good performance is through an exemplar. So after giving all these instructions, please do not expect them to do it right the first time. I mean, usually, and in the 20th century teaching, or after instructions, okay, sige, maghiwa-hiwalay na kayo, gawin nyo na yung work nyo, tapos. And then the next thing is submission. Voila, submission na, right? But in the 21st century, this is no-no already, okay? We have to show them first an exemplar, a sample, a model, before you can expect your students to deliver high-quality output, okay? Now, but it's not enough that you show an exemplar. It has to be discussed in class, okay? It has to be clarified in class. Take, for example, we can step it up a little bit by having a Slido activity and say, for example, throw this question like, what makes Lirio a creative magic realist story for you? And some of them might object, mind you, right? So it's gonna be a helpful and meaningful discussion about what is an ideal story, magic real story for the 21st century students, right? It's not anymore the U1990 kid magic realist story ideals, no? It's already the 21st century students' idea of a creative story, all right? And so you allow them to answer the Slido poll or word cloud activity, and then it would be, again, a meaningful discussion in class, all right? That is something that's precious, no, for me as a literature teacher. Another option is for them to rate, no, mas quantitative ang stance, no? And this could be, again, thinking about research, this could also be an interesting topic for research. Like, how do they assess literary pieces nowadays? Okay? Baka iba na yung standard mo sa standard nila, right? Like, rate how creative this short story is with 5 as the highest and 1 as the lowest. Again, you can use Slido or any other poll apps available online. And again, the most important thing here is the discussion that comes after. Hindi lang po nagpapa-poll tapos na, no? It has to be processed because for all you know, there are some answers that might not be correct, no? Based on norms, based on standards. So you have to also read out those that are misunderstandings or misconceptions about magic realist story. Okay. Now, another thing, as I mentioned a while ago, is after explaining the exemplar, after all of you have the same understanding of what high quality output is, you can now go to negotiated assessment. You can now negotiate about the rubrics that will be used in grading the work. Okay, like for example, you can have injection of local color in this because these particular elements surfaced in your discussion a while ago. All right, now the next ones will be up to you. I only gave some examples here, but well, it should actually come from your students. Now, allow your students to blurt out those elements that they think should be reasonably checked or assessed in the output. Say, for example, some of them would think, is grammar important here? Is spelling important here? If they're not important in your objectives, if your class does not think it's not important, then let it go, right? Maybe for you as a teacher and for the class, what is more important is the idea of the injection of local color than grammar. Or maybe not entirely removed, but just diminished in terms of weight or percentage. All right, so again, it's up to you. All right, it's up to you and your class. Okay, that's negotiated assessment. All right. Second principle is encouraging dialogic feedback. Now take note of the word dialogic because, well, we're used to doing feedback. I know all of us are doing this. But the dialogic part, I'm not quite sure if we have the time to do this, right? But if we start small, I tell you it would be a very meaningful learning activity for you and your students. Dialogic meaning two-way. Before 20th century, when we were studying in the 1990s, our teachers would just, return the paper with a star or with a cinco, right? Or 85, and it stops there, right? But in the 21st century, students will not be contented with that anymore. They want results. Sabi nga ni Piolo, I want an acceptable reason. Okay, so you give your students that. Okay, they deserve explanation for their marks. Okay, now in line with that is while you are doing dialogue with them, why don't you also insert self-assessment informally or formally? I don't know if you have time, but informally for me would already be enough. Like a simple question is, how are you in terms of doing the project? Right? How are you doing? How are you progressing? That's already self-assessment. And it doesn't need a rubric or something for you to know that or to assess that. Okay? Now, when we're doing peer or teacher dialogue synchronously, these are the 4 steps that I'd like you to follow. The first one is self-assessment. Ask the student first, where are you? How have you been progressing? Okay? How are your group mates? Like, kayo sa paggawa ng play o sa paggawa ng... So again, start with the self-assessment. Okay? How are you? All right? And then after that, don't break their hearts yet. Sabi nga ni Doc Jennie kanina, there's no easy way, but don't. Sabi din ni Angela Bofill, kaway-kaway sa mga 1980s, 1990s babies dyan, break it to me gently. All right? So you start with commend the students' progress first, and then their effort to consult. Kung wala kayong maisip na positive thing kasi sobrang wale ng gawa, why don't you start with, what, I appreciate your effort in consulting with me. Not many students would do that, but you had the effort to come to me and ask for help. Isn't that a great thing already? I did that to one of my students and he started submitting requirements already. So you see the power of, motivation and intrinsic motivation. Something that they would look forward to because, again, you commended them for being such a cooperative student or humble student, okay? And other positive messages that you can think of, all right? So start with commendation, all right? And then after that, you can break their hearts already. Explain the gap clearly. And don't only break their hearts. Again, Piolo said, give them acceptable reason, okay? So give them a clear idea as to what to improve on further, all right? And how to move forward, which is our last step for the dialogue. Tackle future direction. Now, as much as possible, allow your students, especially if you're teaching higher grade levels, allow your students to decipher what they're gonna do moving forward. Don't dictate what to do, what they should do in the future, but you ask them, so how do we move forward? All right? And if they couldn't say something about how to move forward, that's when you come in as an expert, because sometimes they're lost. Aminin natin, sometimes they're lost. They would just tell you, I heard some feedback like, I don't know, ma'am, I'm lost. So how do you react? Obviously, you don't wait for 5 minutes and then tell the students to just say something, no? But you have to already intervene. That's my opinion. No? You have to intervene and already give options. Yeah. The second thing is give options. And that's where they could choose probably what they could do moving forward. So asynchronously, if you don't have much time for synchronous dialogue, thankfully in the 21st century, asynchronous means of giving feedback, it's already available. They're already available. Take, for example, this one, my students, peer feedback, they would do this through Google Docs. And I also do the same with my students through Google Docs as well. And there are, again, so many apps right now that would enable dialogic feedback. So please maximize them, okay? Speaking of self-assessment, but asynchronously, as you can see here, I have a sample self-assessment. As you can see here, I did not only focus on the output, but I also tried to assess their 21st century skills like collaboration, sense of initiative, productivity, yung mga natutulog lang sa library, for example, di ba? Thoroughness and accuracy, maagap nga pero mali ang gawa, right? Promptness, respect and appropriateness of the manner of communicating. And that's something that I really added there because some students would complain of students who are just rude, no, when they collaborate with their mates. And you can add more, right? But the point here is that let the students feel that their attitude matters also. If not equally important with the output, at least it has importance. It's something that is that matters in the assessment process. Now, it doesn't always have to be graded kung pagod na kayo sa pag-grade, right? But at least it has to be given feedback. No, you could feedback about these characteristics later on and their peers as well. Okay. Number 4 is provide opportunities to close the gap. And again, there are so many ways to do this. 3 of which would be give additional sources to relearn concepts. Sometimes I would put links of certain online sources where they could relearn these concepts so that they could learn on their own. Or you can make a sermon, usually we call that sermon, no? Before you start your lecture, di ba? Mayroon kang pa-sermon sa klase, no? So why not turn your sermon into a productive one or a meaningful one? A productive one in terms of it could result to better results later on. Okay, like tell them what feedback general feedback you have for all your work. Like for example, na high blood ka kagabi dahil ang daming mistakes. Why not the next day tell them about it? Blurt it out. No, I mean disclose these things so that later on hopefully it will not happen again. Hold workshops or write shops so that you can see them working in reality. And you can go around and observe what has been the misconceptions, the misunderstandings with instructions, and what they're doing wrong. All right. And give attempts, no? Give many attempts, milestones for them to be able to accomplish the task so that you send the message that it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to have attempts because again, the creative process is never linear. It's cyclical. You repeat and repeat until you get it perfect. All right. So again, it's telling our students that you are just a human being. You can make mistakes. It's okay. I'm your teacher. I can help you do it right. Okay. So attempts, they're very important. Number 5, high quality feedback information. And I will already integrate it with the 6th one. With your feedback, with your high quality feedback, please boost their self-esteem. All right. Our students nowadays are very vulnerable, as you can see, no? Like for example, you might be wondering, bakit nung time ko naman, nung grade 1 ako, hindi man ako ganyan, lagi nagwa-whine or something, no? Lagi nagko-complain or something. But our students nowadays, they really are very breakable, okay? So all the more nowadays, we have to follow the sustainable assessment principles, like boosting their self-esteem. So nowadays, it's not enough that you say, good job, no, thumbs up, well done, star, right? You rock, no? Pag preschool, sure, why not, no? But for senior high, junior high school students, no, it will not work for them anymore, right? Well, you can say it first, but please also do say something more, like aside from giving positive feedback, why not also give precise feedback? Where did I go wrong exactly? Okay. And then finally, don't leave them hanging or don't leave them, don't just abandon them, right? Tell them, no, these are the things that you can do. These are the things these are options for you to better your work. All right. So remember these 3 P's, all right? Positive, comment, precise, and practical. And I'm pretty sure, not really pretty sure, all right, but 75% sure probably that Czech Republic would not be that much of a harsh territory anymore. I'll give you an example, all right? Like, for example, you're asking them to create a magic realist story. Now, you can say, your story highlights the unique context and culture of the town through vivid imagery. Look at the specific adjectives that I use. However, this is the part where you're going to break their heart. However, there's a need to establish the conflict in the story and how this conflict affects characterization. So you see, it's very specific. What's bad about it? Not entirely bad, but what's not perfect about it? It is their lack of conflict. All right? So that's a very specific gap. Now, moving forward, okay? Take note that stories, be it printed or visual, are driven by conflict. And without it, the plot will be flat and there will be nothing to look forward to for the readers. You may check out these stories for some basic types of conflicts that you can choose from to improve your work and your stories in the future. All right? So as you can see in the blue one, how practical it is because you make them realize that in real life, kahit anong K-drama panoorin mo, kahit anong Netflix movie ang panoorin mo, stories are the same, right? They all have conflicts. And if you don't have one, surely no one will appreciate your story. All right? Now, again, to help them up, as not to break their hearts that much, you help them get through it. You help them get past it by giving a source that would help them relearn the concept on their own if you don't have much time. Okay? Now, I have a video, an example of how I would do it orally. But due to the interest of time, Ma'am Camille, can you put in the chat box the YouTube video wherein I recorded a sample hopefully high quality feedback that I gave my student when she presented her research about literature. Okay, so Ma'am Camille, please just put it in the chat box. All right, but I hope that the three parts, the three P's, are very clear in this example. All right, now, seventh and last principle, use feedback to improve teaching. I think Dr. Jennie already mentioned this a while ago already, okay? Because our decisions in the class must also be research informed, must be scientifically, if not strictly scientifically, at least it's logical, right? Logical way of improving yourself, all right? And we know, I have a tree image here because I remember Cirilo Bautista's, may God rest his soul, pedagogic. I learned it from Doc Jennie. And you will still be the same teacher if you don't learn from your mistakes, if you don't learn from what you see from your students. If you want to be a bright tree, if you want to change color, you have to do the following, all right? Number one is observe your class, how deep the discussion is, how deep the discussion participation is. If your students are not participating and their answers are mababaw, not so deep, the interpretations are all over the place, why not intervene and give feedback and say, why don't you look at this story in a different angle? Why not consider this kind of interpretation? Look at this 9, right? You think this is still the right interpretation? Something like that, okay? Second one is observations, no? Now, before in my first years of teaching, bawal kami umupo, no? Kapag may mga group work, no? Sisitayin ka ng mga madre, no? Mga principal kapag nakaupo ka habang nag-group work mga bata, no? So, since naka-heels naman na tayo, why not? Why not go around the classroom, right? And observe what they're doing. And you tell them right away, oh, I think you're missing out on this particular element. I think you misunderstood the instruction. Why not you do it this way, right? So doon pa lang, we can already ensure that they will be able to follow the instructions and do it right. All right. We already try to minimize the mistakes later on. You can also check out the patterns of concerns during consultations. If they have similar concerns, then it's time for you to step up in the classroom and say, okay, general feedback, I noticed that you have similar concerns. Let me reteach this lesson if it's not yet clear. And then finally, same thing, the reactions to comments and suggestions they received could also be, again, a signal to you that you have to step up and react to these suggestions, to these comments, by, again, making them understand what has been amiss or what has been not understood along the way, all right? So takeaways for the day, as for my talk, again, let's clarify to the students what we mean by high quality creative output. And again, this can only happen if we have dialogue with our students. It's a two-way street. And let's meet halfway with our students in terms of filling in the gap in their work. And of course, we always aim for improvement if we want our students to be better individuals in the future. Thank you so much, Paul. Here are my references if you want to research about it. Nothing much has been researched about sustainable assessment yet, so I encourage you to do the same. And thank you so much. I may not have the opportunity later on, but thank you so much for making time for us. And we hope to see you in our next packet sessions. Para sa Guro at Panitikan. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Ma'am Kelly. Ma'am Chini.
Thank you very much, Ma'am Kelly. We'll now open the platform for our Q&A. So while our participants are facing or preparing their...
Thank you.
Again, please, ma'am. I'm using my other device. Hello?
Unmute yourself.
Ma'am, naririnig naman po si Doc Jennie.
The other device.
I'm using my other device po. Medyo unstable lang yung internet ko from my other device. So while our other participants are preparing for their questions, siguro let's read na lang. Sige pa. I'll transfer po.
Narinig ko po yung sinasabi ni Ma'am Chini.
At this point, you can ask questions already, no? For not only for me, but for the rest of our speakers. You might not have addressed yet some of the questions a while ago. I really appreciate your questions, no? Because that means you are listening and you're with us. So yeah, we really appreciate them. So let's start.
Kelly?
Yes. Okay, I'm here now, sir, and I can already communicate, I think, using my other device.
Let's see if I
think Ma'am Chini, we cannot be heard by Ma'am Kelly.
You can only see the thank yous. Maraming salamat po in advance.
Okay.
Kelly, you cannot hear Chini, Kelly?
I think she couldn't hear us po.
Yeah, Kelly cannot hear us. Okay, sige. Maybe you can continue, Doc Chini. We can
yes, but let's probably read a few of...
I cannot hear. Sorry, I cannot hear you.
Your audio is off. Let's communicate with her via chat box, perhaps, so she could hear our message. She could see our message. Right, I think Kelly will just try to reconnect. Meanwhile, let us read a few of the messages by our participants or their comments to the presentation earlier. I've read here our participants saying that they're able to appreciate the topic about sustainable assessment because they could relate well with it. They also practice it in their classes. From Miss Mary Jane, she said it's a wonderful discussion that she had gotten from Kelly, and the speakers are very informative. Thank you also to the rest that have given their positive comments. And earlier, I also have read that they found this packet session very interesting. They learned a lot of things. And I hope that also that they'll be able to try or give the inputs to try in their classes. Especially we have participants who are undergraduate students. So can we see an interaction also from our participants here who are undergraduate students or taking any course related to literature? Do we have undergraduate students here? And can we have a thumbs up perhaps? And so we're currently waiting for Ms. Kelly to be back in the platform.
Maybe if there are other questions for Jay.
Yes, let's try to review here the questions that were raised earlier for Sir Jay. I suppose. Okay, we have
sorry, I'm
here
back. Sorry.
one. Okay.
Sorry, ma'am.
Okay, maybe let's reserve the other question.
Sure, no problem.
Sir J. Okay, we have one here from Mom Elizabeth Soriano. Qualitative feedbacks are very much effective way of assessment. However, large class is one of the problems in public secondary school classrooms. What large class feedback techniques may be applied without compromising quality feedback? That question is for Ma'am Kelly.
Thank you, ma'am, ma'am or sir, for that question. I mentioned a while ago about addressing comments
Hello,
for the
Ma'am
whole
Kelly.
class. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can
Yes,
hear
ma'am.
Ma'am
Yes,
Kelly.
yes, okay.
Yes.
All right, so I mentioned a while ago about giving general feedback to the class, because I understand, I can feel you that you cannot give 100% individual feedback for your students, especially if you're teaching like 80 students in a class. So what you can do is, again, give a general feedback, yung sermon type na sinasabi ko kanina, no? But you turn your sermon into something positive. Hindi na siya yung sermon na galit yung teacher, na nakakunot yung noo at nagagalit, na high blood sa harap, no? But it's something that the students would learn from. First, you can start with asking them, oh, kamusta kayo? How did you find our creative task? Blah, blah. You can ask them to recite. How was it? Blah, 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 right? And then you let them know about what you found beautiful about their work, Buna. Remember the 4 steps a while ago? And then break their heart. Third step, okay? Here are the gaps that I saw. Common mistakes, so that they won't feel like, shucks, ako ata yun, no? Hindi ako nakailag sa bato, no? Ako yata yung nagkamali. So, third is, again, identify the gap, but again, make sure that it's generalized. It's not, oh, ikaw, nabasa ko yung gawa mo. Diba? Nag-stand out yung gawa mo kasi kulang ka sa ganito. No, you cannot, of course, do that, right? You have to address it generally, all right? And then, moving forward after. So, how do we move forward to the 3rd quarter, 4th quarter, given this kind of output, given the general quality of your output, okay? So sometimes I would even tell them, oh, okay, most of you got 90 to 100. O, di ba, mas quantitative na. So may idea sila gaano kasama o gaano kaganda yung gawa nila. And so that informs you, research na naman, that informs you what can still be improved with your students. Right? And also that could inform the next teachers, so about how to teach this batch of students given the quantitative result of the assessment. Okay, so I understand you cannot do this. You may not be able to do this really 100% to each of your students, but what you can do is the next one is to, again, address the class as a whole, and sana, no, yung bato na ibabato nyo ay masalo nila, no? Matandaan nila yung lesson. Okay? I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Ma'am Kelly. Another question here. Can you give us some tips on how to express transparency with our expectations to our students without being misinterpreted by our objective? Without misinterpreted by our objective.
I'm not quite sure what you mean by misinterpreted by the objective, but well, how do you make clear expectations if there's a need to define what you mean by plot, what you mean by injection of local color, what you mean by call this the juxtaposition of magic. Say, for example, let me give a concrete example. What if they don't understand what juxtaposition of magic and real means? Then you have to give examples, if you want, from Lirio, and that, I hope, would clarify what you expect from them in terms of clarity in the connection between magic and real. But in magic realism specifically, the juxtaposition should be seamless. That's what makes magic realism stand out from other genres, apart from fairy tales, or say, for example, because magic realism ought to have a seamless connection. Hindi nagugulat yung mga characters, oh, bakit yung pumpkin naging castle? Diba? Si Cinderella nagulat pa no? But sa magic realism, walang nagugulat bakit ganyan ang reality. Bakit magical ang reality? So I think that should be clear, no? What do you mean by juxtaposition? A clear juxtaposition in terms of magic realism. So again, if definitions would help, better.
Thank you, Ma'am Kelly. Another question. Is the definition of literature in CWLT limited to folkloric and literary texts? Or does it extend to informative or expository texts? Can we use CWLT in language subjects that use content area text? So there are 3 questions from Kim. Maybe we can start with the first one. Is the definition of literature in CWLT limited to folkloric and literary texts?
Can Jay answer
Doc Jen, you
that?
want to take this po? Thank you.
Jay will answer.
JJ.
Okay. The framework kasi ng CWTL takes on the pre, no? So feeding the text, read the text, enhance the text, and enjoy the text. If you can use that framework in language subjects that uses content area text, then why not? The more that you are going to enhance your language teaching. Diba? After, thank you for flashing, no? So feeding the text, read the text, enhance the text, and enjoy the text. At the same time, incorporating, no, the freeing the mind revolutionizes the classroom and ensuring love for learning, yung research, yung assessment, and then the concept building. Lahat naman ay present kahit sa language subject. So that is why we believe that CWLT cut across different subjects, different fields of specialization. How much more, no, language area subjects? Yan.
Thank you, sir. Next to that, there's like a question. Can they use CWLT in language subjects that use content area texts?
I'll take it.
Ayun po. Ayun. I think I have answered that question already, no? Again, though the birthing of the CWLT is based in literature, again, this cut across different fields of specialization. So, ang ganda nga kasi magiging literary yung base ng pagtuturo mo ngayon ng language subjects, na content area subjects, wherein mas lalong magiging enriched ang matututunan ng mga bata lalo na.
Thank you, Sir Jay. We have one last question, I guess, for Ma'am Kelly. And we have another one, which is a comment related to research. Let's have first the one for assessment. Ma'am Kelly, what is the best way to deal with the students who chose to ignore the feedback and would often keep repeating the same mistakes in their outputs?
I can feel you, no? It happened to me also. Like, for example, I would ask them to revise their topic proposal. This is research. I teach research po kasi, that's why I can give more examples on research. Like, yeah, nakailang linggo na the comment is still there. It hasn't been resolved. So what I would do is I would really message them already and say, let's meet up. Come on, let's already do this. I'm tired of, seeing the comment over and over again. So let's already meet in this conference, in this virtual conference. Let's meet up after class. Minsan doon ko sila hinuhuli, no, sa class kasi walang alisan, no? So you tell them, okay, the following students should stay after class. Let's talk about your research, no? Let's talk about your output. And that's where, again, mako-corner mo na sila in a way, and then tell them, ask them first, no? Self-assessment. Ask them, why are you not following my instructions? Why are you not following my suggestions? And for God, who knows, they might have a reason why they're not following you. Maybe they don't understand you. Maybe there are some students of mine who would reject my suggestions, mind you. And again, it's better to ask them first why they rejected the suggestion or why they're ignoring the suggestion, before you shotgun them with all your comments, and before you even feel offended because of not being because of being taken for granted. No, so again, the four steps would be very helpful, especially for students who are, in your perspective, stubborn, but might have different reasons for not heeding to your suggestions.
Thanks, Ma'am Kelly. And so we've already had questions answered by Sir Jay, and answers on questions about assessment answered by Ma'am Kelly. We'll probably end with a comment for Ma'am Jen. Ma'am Jen's topic on research now, or incorporating research. As DepEd leader from Ma'am Marlene Herrio, I realized that our teachers do not have enough time to reflect on their classroom practices and do research because they have many non-essential tasks to do for the school, and yes, for the students. There are, and then from there, she said, this is something that we can have, or that we have to improve, so that the teachers can apply everything that they learn in training like this. Thank you so much for this opportunity, Leap. And thank you so much to our participants for the meaningful comments and even the questions that you have raised. And thank you to our speakers. We'll now turn over the microphone, the floor to our MC.
Thank you very much, Ma'am Chini, and thank you very much as well to all our speakers this afternoon. I think everyone would agree to me that this session is a very productive one, right? May we give a heart emoji to our speakers? Can we have a heart emoji for our speakers? Ayan. Thank you po ng marami. Now, to award the certificates, may I call on the Vice President of LEAP, Ms. Early Esparungao Calweng, together with all our other speakers to turn on their camera to award the certificate. May I also request, may I read the citation? Sir Jay, can we go to the next slide? May I read the citation, everyone? Literature Educators Association of the Philippines Incorporated, LIP Incorporated, presents this Certificate of Recognition to Mr. J. M. Maravilla, Dr. Jennie V. Jocson, and Ms. Kornellie L. Raquitico, in grateful acknowledgement of their and appreciation of their valuable contribution as resource person during the first LEAP Packet Session 2022 with the theme, It's Free Framework for Literature Teaching, held on February 26, 2022 via Zoom. Signed by the President, Ms. Kornellie L. Raquitico, and the Vice President, Ms. Early Esparungao Calweng. Let's give them a round of applause, everyone. Okay, let's take a picture po. Can we move, sir, to the first two certificates? Okay. And last one, sir. Thank you po. Thank you, everyone. To present now the Dalin Journal, may I request Mr. Christopher Y. Wright, LEAP's board member and editor of Dalin.
Hi everybody, good afternoon. Hindi pa po natatapos ito. Masaya ang aming mga puso sapagkat ang unang issue ng Dalin, which is the Dalin Maiden issue, will cover everything about the use of the CWTL. And once that it's published, you may cite officially LEAP for these kind of work texts. On behalf of Dalin's editorial team, along with our international external reviewers, I am inviting everybody to highly consider Dalin for your first publication. You may submit your manuscript to us and we will be happily accept all these manuscripts. So what is Dalin? So let me first introduce Dalin to you, Sir Robert. Okay, so Dalin, or Earth, is the official peer-reviewed electronic journal of LEAP Incorporated, a professional organization of literature educators and creative writers in the Philippines. It publishes biannually literary research, including classroom-based research, whether you applied quantitative, qualitative, or MMR, best teaching practices, lesson exemplars, review articles such as novels, short story, and poetry compilation, among others, and creative works limited to poetry, flash fiction, and short fiction written in English, Filipino, and other Philippine languages. Hence, Dalin accepts manuscript written in any official language that we have, no? So it is biannually published July and December, and other special issues as the need arises. Next, please. So our call for publication for the first issue of Dalin, because the maiden issue will be covered by the officers of LEAP. Okay, the contributions, your manuscripts may be sent to dalinjournal@gmail.com until April 4, 2022, Monday, that's Monday. The notice of acceptance will be on April 18, 2022. So the Dalin follows the official format using the APA 7th edition in checking and publishing research papers, review articles, and the best practices. The recommended length of contributions is presented as follows. For research papers, 5,000 to 6,000 words. For best practices, 2,000 to 6,000 words. For review articles, 1,000 to 2,500 words. For poetry, 1 up to 4 poetry if submitted in a series. For flash fiction, we have 50 to 1,000 words, and then short fiction, about 7,500 words. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Sir MC. Now may I call on Miss Esther Camille Barquilla, our secretary, for some announcements.
Magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. And inaanyayahan po ang lahat na mag-renew o di kaya naman po ay mag-member o magpa-member po sa ating organisasyon. Click.
Ma'am Camille, unmute kaya? Okay.
Ay, sorry. Ayan, i-click lang po natin yung link na nasa chat box o kaya po yung QR code na nakikita nyo po para sa membership details. We are open pa po sa June 2021, June 2022 cycle, and we are opening our new cycle on June 2022 up to next year ng June 2023 naman po. So kung magpapa-member po kayo, we recommend na antayin natin ng konti sa June para po may 1 year na cycle po tayo sa membership. Pero if you want, we are already open na po sa lifetime membership. Yung details po ay again nandyan na po sa link na binigay natin or sa QR code na shinare natin. Ayan, and I expect po sana namin na sana ay makapagpa-member tayo sa ating organization. Thank you so much po. And last, ayan, yung evaluation form po natin ay yung link po ay nasa chat box lang din natin. O kaya po scan din po natin tong QR na nakikita po natin sa harap ninyo. Hintayin po namin yung evaluation form natin will serve as our attendance for today and will give you po ng e-certificate basis po natin. So ayan, yung eval form po natin ay nasa chat box. Antayin po namin hanggang 6 p.m. today yung ating evaluation. Again, thank you so much po sa ating pagdalo sa ating first activity for this year.
Thank you, Ma'am Camille. Now to give us a preview of our upcoming activities, may I call on again our Vice President, Ms. Early S. Parungaw-Calweng.
Thank you, Bert. Thank you, everybody. All right, once again, LEAP would like to invite you for the upcoming activities that we have lined up for the year. We have a lot in store for you. So we have 3 more packet sessions to come. That this is still aside from the international conference that we're also preparing, right? As early as this time. So for the next packet sessions, immediately next month, right? We will be talking about hindi ito na-edit. Okay. In the next packet session, in celebration of the Women's Month, we will be talking about gender, right? We will be covering what do you call this? We will be covering both feminist literary texts and even gay fiction. So we hope to see you there with us. For June, right? For the third packet session, we will be having a topic on social injustices. So we're going to be exploring fiction, right, as regards the way that it mirrors social injustice. And finally, during the Buenang Wika, we will also try to focus on the literature that would that would show the significance, right, of literature, that we show the significance of literature in also preserving the same intent that we do for our Philippine languages. So we hope to see you all in our upcoming packet sessions. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Ma'am Early. So for now, we have to close the first packet session. I hope that we will see you again in other upcoming activities that we have. Definitely po, you can just always look into our Facebook page. Again, the Facebook page is Literature Educators Association of the Philippines Incorporated. We also have our Twitter. You can just click twitter.com/lipinco. And then we also have our website, https://liffail.org. No? Ako po ulit, si Robert Madrilejos. I hope to see all of you again in the upcoming activities that we have planned for you. Para sa guro, para sa bayan, at para sa panitikan. Marami pong salamat. May I request po everyone to have a picture taking, photo off po. May I request everyone to turn on their camera for a photo off. Kalimutan ko po, pasensya na po. Okay po. For a while po. Okay po. So we have six ba? Sorry. We have 4 decks. So hindi po natin alam kung kailan tayo mag-picturean. So ngiti lang po tayo hanggang sa matapos ang aking pong pagtisignal po. Okay po? So first slide, everyone. 1, 2, 3, smile. Second slide po. 1, 2, 3, smile. Third slide po. 1, 2, 3, smile. And fourth slide. Ayan po. Maraming pong salamat, everyone. We'll see you again in our next activities. Bye-bye po.
Thank you, everyone. Till next time. Officers, briefing lang po at may meeting. Thank you. Ayan. Thank you,
Tama po ba?
ma'am.
Okay na?
Yes, yes.
Okay po.
May I screen share po and
Yun
then
yung nandito, 15?
recording na rin po.
Ay,
Okay
may
na, no?
15? Bakit may 15? Ay, hindi kasi
14
meron
lang dapat. No.
Dalawa device ni Ma'am Chini yata, Doc Chini.
14
14.
plus.
So,
may
dapat
mga
14
nasa
lang.
waiting lang po. Kaya
Kaya
counted sila.
15. Okay, so
Yes.
dapat 14 lang. 13 lang. Okay, sige. Game.
Okay na po tayo. Sige po.
Congratulations po. Ma'am, pa-stop na lang po ng recording. Thank you po.
Ay, oo nga pala. Sorry. Ako pala yun.